The performances in this film are really strong and raw. They really wanted you to believe that they were truly falling in love at every moment, at every second. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Isaac Joel, and today we're going to be breaking down A24's latest film, We Live in Time, starring Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield, directed by John Crowley. This film is completely unexpected, I think, from A24. I really haven't seen anything as dramatic and as sincere and heartfelt as this film. I mean, they have done a lot of movies in the past from so many different genres. They're really known for doing horror, science fiction, dramatic films, rom-coms, and they really have just done it all. But something as intimate and raw as this film, for me, based off of everything that I have seen from A24's catalog of films, this to me is the most sincere and beautiful film of them all. I really enjoyed this film, and John Crowley isn't even a director who has done a lot of known films. Really nothing that I mentioned you would ever have seen or know. I looked up his IMDb page before I did this review, and I really didn't find anything that stood out to me that was really interesting. And so for me, this is my introduction to this director, and I really felt that he is such an intimate and genuine director. We Live in Time is a film that struggled with its marketing. Ever since that horrific poster with the horse came out, everybody has kind of just not been taking this film very seriously. The trailer was a little bit cliche, a little bit corny, and I really felt like the film had to prove itself why it is such an amazing film that you need to watch and that you really need to kind of like experience when you sit down. I had an amazing opportunity to watch an advanced screening for We Live in Time, followed by a live Q&A with Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield, where they got to talk a little bit more about their characters, the story, the chemistry, how they filmed the movie, and it really gave me a lot of insights onto how you have to make a project like this without crossing any boundaries, without making anybody feel uncomfortable, because it really goes out of its way for you to feel that they are really falling in love. The tagline in this film is "Every minute counts," and it really shows in its elements and its themes and its story structure. This is a film that is non-linear, meaning that it doesn't follow a traditional storyline. It's not beginning, middle, and end. It's really, like its title, jumping around in time, back and forth, giving you no indication when you're in the past, when you're in the present, when you're in the future. There's no color grading, nothing like that that really stands out for you to realize, oh, we're in this point of time. You truthfully have to just be paying attention to the film in order to understand exactly at what point you are in their relationship, because I believe the film starts off with them already married and established, and as it progresses you get to discover and learn how they actually met, and it's hilarious. Their story is really just so adorable. I don't know how you can make a movie with Andrew Garfield or with Florence Pugh and not fall in love with one another, because their chemistry in this film is just so strong. I feel like other films that have came out this past year, like It Ends With Us, The Idea of You, those romantic films really try to do what We Live in Time does so perfectly. I found myself mesmerized by Florence Pugh's performance. If you're not familiar with her work, besides just the fact that she's in a Marvel movie, obviously Andrew Garfield is as well, you really need to look at their films outside of the MCU to understand what kind of caliber acting they're bringing into this film. They have such massive range as actors, and they really show that in this movie. I fell in love with Florence Pugh when I saw this movie called A Good Person, I believe, directed by Zach Braff. This is an underrated film that didn't really get a lot of positive reviews. Not a lot of people talked about it, really. It had such a terrible title and a terrible poster as well. But I sat down and watched this film one day just to kind of like poke fun at it, and I found myself crying immediately. And all of that is credit to Florence Pugh's acting. She has such an intense emotion with all of the characters that she has portrayed, whether it's a horror film like Midsommar, even that one movie directed by Olivia Wilde, Don't Worry Darling. She was phenomenal in that movie. She has never given a bad performance. She's one of the best actresses of all time. And so I really want to emphasize that when you go and watch this movie, you're going to be watching it for Florence Pugh, and Andrew Garfield is really there to support and build her up and uplift her beautiful performance, really. And he's just as phenomenal as always. Andrew Garfield isn't an actor that does a lot of movies back to back. He really chooses his next project carefully. He does a movie every couple of years. He's not looking for the next big franchise, the next big film that he needs to do to put his name out there. No, he's choosing projects. I want to talk a little bit about the story in this film. As always, I don't want to give away any spoilers. I highly recommend that you go check this movie when it comes out. The story follows two complete strangers that meet one day after Florence Pugh's character runs over Andrew Garfield in the middle of the street, and he wakes up in a hospital with a neck brace, his arm's broken. He has no idea where he is. He has no idea who this character is. He has no idea what is happening, and his entire world is just being turned upside down. He's going through a divorce, and you don't really know who he's been married to because it's not following their lives outside of each other. The movie is following the lives of these two people and how they came together, and it's such a heartwarming, tragic story, honestly. From that moment on, their relationship, their chemistry just flourishes. There's a scene right after where she's a world famous chef. She's very competitive, very well known in that industry, and she invites him over to her restaurant to try her food. And as she's cooking, she's sending food out to him and he's trying it, and there's a moment when he tastes it, and it's not even that the food is so delicious. It's really just the fact that this person is pouring passion, art into everything that she does, and she's living her life. And there's something about that that's just so attractive to him and so wonderful and beautiful. And so he follows his heart with her. He wants to spend every minute that he can with her, and they quickly fall in love, and their differences start to contrast each other. She doesn't want kids, he wants kids. Florence Pugh's character Almut is suffering from a terminal illness in a form of cancer, something that she knows her time is limited from the start of the film. She decides quickly, do I want to suffer for 12 months going through chemotherapy, knowing what is going to eventually happen to me at the end of that time? Or do I want to spend these last 6 months happy with my family, with my daughter, with my husband? She's secretly competing in a competition that is affecting her illness, that isn't helping her get any better because she's putting so much energy into that. And Andrew Garfield's character Tobias, he is just so in love with her, and he's just so heartbroken that he knows that he's going to lose her, and he just hopes and wishes that she would fight a little bit harder to stay with them. But ultimately, they all know what is going to happen to her by the end of the film. This is one of those movies that it's not about the destination, but the journey. What goes on in that journey for these characters, and how do they arrive at that set destination? I think you already know exactly when the movie starts how it's going to end. And so you kind of have to brace yourselves for an audience. I saw this movie with a massive audience, and not one person got up and left. They were completely locked into the movie. They were laughing, they were crying. I heard so many people sniffling, pulling out the tissues, and I was one of them. Honestly, I don't know how I'm doing this interview without even crying. I'm trying so hard to control myself right now because this movie really brought me to tears with the performance of Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield. Their chemistry together was just so heartbreaking. I found myself falling in love with them together, and I didn't want it to end. I really wanted this movie to kind of just go on. I don't want to say it had any hard messaging. Movies like this, you can convince yourself that there is a message. Of course, time is limited, but it is such a raw take on the realism of relationships from that moment that you meet, from that moment that you fall in love and you argue and you have children. It really shows how raw and real that emotional experience that you go through together is. And so it feels like a movie that's just a little piece of life, and you really appreciate what its essence is at the end of the day. I loved this film. Anytime I get an opportunity to see these two actors shine in a role, and the fact that I got to see both of them on screen together was such a powerful experience. I highly recommend that you all go check this movie out. I'm going to rate We Live in Time 10 out of 10. The performances in this film are really strong and raw. They really wanted you to believe that they were truly falling in love at every moment, at every second. And this film made me really appreciate every second that we have with those that are in our lives. You really don't want to take any minute for granted. You want to spend as much time as possible. Hold those that you love close and let them know why you love them. This is one of those movies that makes you walk away really appreciating life and everything that you have around you and the people that surround you and that love you and want to see you succeed and take care so much. And so I really loved this movie. I really highly recommend that you go check it out in theaters when it comes out. I'm very curious what you think about We Live in Time. A24 always knows how to make the best movies possible. Let me know in the comments below, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. My name is Isaac Joel. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time.